a retired homicide detective. I've interviewed thousands of people, from serial killers to ministers. Welcome to the interview room. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Welcome to the interview room. So grateful that you're here. Hopefully you had some opportunity to snuggle up with the one you love, the one you care about the most, and that you had a beautiful, beautiful time together today. I wanted to have this opportunity to be here with you guys tonight and share some of my thoughts about some of the video we've been seeing, and about some of the critiques that we've been hearing and strategies taking place. You know, Karen and I are always grateful that we have this opportunity to do this here on YouTube and on this channel, but it's because of you. Each and every one of you make our channel better and make us better people. And for that, we're grateful. So I want to thank our subs. That's all we ask, that you just sub to this channel and then you share it with your friends and family on your social media platforms, as well as any other place that you feel is pertinent. I also want to thank our members, and not only our channel members, but our Patreon members. We're very grateful for each and every one of you and your support. But more importantly as well, to our mods. I think a channel can only be as good as those that believe in you. And these four women on Valentine's Day are here tonight. Miss Sophia, Maui Girl, Teresa M, and Mimi J2. Without them, we couldn't do any of this. And I know Mimi's been sick, so please keep her in your thoughts and your prayers as we go through this evening. Again, if you're new to our channel, we only ask that you subscribe. So with that, I saw Mary, thank you so much. We're grateful. And Ruth, welcome to the family. So grateful to have you here. Okay, well, we've got a lot to cover, guys and gals. We really do. I think, man, have we heard some testimony over the last couple of weeks. And I've had the honor to, be asked to weigh in with Nancy Grayson. I don't know if you guys have gone over to her channel or not, Crime Line. Please go over there and subscribe. She's not only an amazing human being, but her staff is amazing. And she's feisty. I love her. And she comes up and just comes up punching, as we all know. And, that's necessary for a prosecutor. And I could have only imagined having a case with her in trial, because I pity the poor individual on the other side of receiving it. That said, so let's talk. I'm going to go over the body camera video tonight, and then I'm also going to go over the next couple of days some other interesting things that I've seen. And I don't want to bring them out here tonight, because obviously I want to dig a little bit deeper. But so everybody's been asking about motive, right? What's the motive? What's the motive for Alec? And I think there's been a buildup to that. And I'm suspecting that over the next couple of days, maybe tomorrow or the next day, whenever the prosecution, settles in here and goes out with a, hopefully another bomb like they did today with poor Maggie's older sister. I mean, I don't know about you, but there was a part there that just absolutely, was a gut punch, right? Was a gut punch. And so, I think the defense strategy, and and by the way, weigh in here in chat tonight. Tonight's going to be one of these nights, like, me, I'm very, casual, but I get focused because I've been studying on this, and sometimes I make mistakes, sometimes I get it right. But one of the things I've seen coming was this stress buildup in relationship to not only the financial um, problems that Alec was having, and but the boat incident where Mallory's life was taken. And we heard testimony today, even from her sister, that, Paul was his number one goal post the homicide was to clear his name. That's been very interesting, that narrative, is in the ether, for lack of a better term. And so what I want to do is kind of figure out and just have a fireside chat, for lack of a better term, with all of us here. Where did this all come from? Meaning, who started this narrative? Why is it so important? And how does it play out now that it's playing out into the courtroom? Because I think I'm hoping they put the guy who got hired to shoot Alex in the head, or at least shoot him, murder suicide kind of thing. So meaning that would have played out as a murder suicide, right? If Alex and remember, all parties are innocent until proven guilty in the court of law, and he's going through that process now. So we have to allege that if he had put into motivate or into motion the idea that, okay, we're going to go through A, B, C, and D. I'm going to lure them down to the kennels. I'm going to take their lives, and then ultimately, I'm going to have this other guy, Sod, right, some other dude, what you talk about, and have him take me out, and therefore there will be Cousin Eddie, right? That's what everybody's calling him, Cousin Eddie. If Cousin Eddie now takes me out, well, then of course there's going to be a multi-million-dollar insurance policy. And of course, if it was a suicide, if he had taken himself out, then that insurance policy would not have paid, right? Because that probably would have been one of the clauses that would have canceled it almost immediately. So you've got this idea of all of this fraud going on in his life. He's hiding his opioid addiction. He's playing the shell game. I said on Nancy's show, remember the old 3-card Monte? So he's constantly moving the ball. And so he's very familiar with how to do that and planning how to do that. And what I thought was a really fascinating comment today from his sister-in-law was when she came up and she said he had made the comment to her that somebody had been planning this for quite some time. And if you think about, from a criminal behavior analysis aspect, the idea behind that statement, there's a whole bunch of things then that you really got to get into the weeds on here. And it is these minutia details that end up nailing these individuals if they're allegedly the suspects or guilty or whatever, however the jury will determine that. So approaching it from a 30,000-foot level, I recall a case years ago in our agency The suspect's name was Laura Trione, and her husband was a Marine. And what had happened is she had lured him. And I mentioned this on one of Karen and I, our video where we showed the shooting spot. And if you've not seen that, go look at it, and you're going to see exactly where this thing goes down. And Nancy and I talked about it at length. Karen and I talked about it at length, and her team. And one of the things that I was just did, I mean, it was just so obvious that somebody had to have a lot of pre-planning going on here. And I said this the other day, and it's on video. And now today we hear the same kind of concept potentially coming out of his own mouth, if in fact he said that. But it sounds like Maggie's sister testified to that. So I'm going to assume that evidence is valid. So that gives us a little insight into Alex Murdaugh. Now, I say Murdaugh because that's how he pronounced his name in that video interview with SLED. I don't know if it's Murdaugh, I don't know. Okay. I just listened to how he said it. And so we'll see how it's going to play out in the court of public opinion. I'm not here, to say I've got it right, but at the same time, I am. My experience tells me that this stuff is just not lining up in any way, shape, or form. So the question then comes: all right, why take Paul out, and why take Maggie out? Now, I think there's going to be testimony at some point, either from the defense is going to put somebody on, and then the prosecutor is going to have a chance to cross them. And, that's why it's called cross-examination, because they basically try to screw you up. If you didn't catch that on the testimony with the pathologist, who I thought did a fantastic job, that professor from Charleston here. And, if that didn't sound discombobulated, I don't know what did. And also then if you take that on top of all of the cell phone information that the defense was, trying to scramble, it's kind of like, just throw it against the wall and see what goes. I was surprised a lot watching this trial that the prosecutor's not objecting to, what they call out of the scope, right? You get a line of questioning and you see these prosecutors, they let the defense run, but at some point, they start going and they start testifying and their own narrative starts coming in. And that starts painting a picture for a jury. And sometimes that's very confusing. And I think that's what's probably, I think each and every one of us would attest to. There's a lot of that going on. Hey, what do you guys think? I mean, I've sat there watching this trial and I'm thinking to myself, man, this guy gets a lot. He's running here. Now, I've seen a lot of DAs. They feel like, if I shut them down, then of course it'll go back on an appellate problem. But this guy, they're just letting him go. And I guess there's a reason for it. There's a strategy for it. But, sometimes that can be dangerous, because if these jurors are not taking notes, which I've heard they're not, then that becomes somewhat problematic because they're only thinking for the moment. And, they're going to have to go back, and you're going to have one dominant juror who is going to, be called the chair of the jury there, right? The lead. And that individual is going to kind of drive the conversation in that jury room. And so you've got to get, the prosecutor has to get right to the points, connect the dots, tie the shoelaces and go on to the next move. And this is one of the things that I think there's a danger of right now, in my opinion, in this trial. It's, as we used to call it, and I mentioned this before, back in the day when Mr. Fong took the stand during the OJ trial years ago, and Barry Scheck and Shapiro and everybody came at him, Bailey, and they would just hammer him. What about that, Mr. Fong? And so in our business back in Southern California, we always never wanted to get fonged. And so that's a two-way street where the DA has to be on board with running a very tight ship. And I'm seeing a lot of that, but then I see, the anchor being pulled up and it just kind of, the ship drifts a little bit. So I want to go over some points tonight about, and this first picture I'm going to put up here is not a really good picture. I can only take a couple of screenshots. So I went back to the kennel video. And you may or may not have already seen this. I have. I don't know if it's already been played in court or not. I know the kennel video has 100 times, but everybody's listening to the voice. The three voices, right? Well, I think we have like 8 witnesses right now who've testified. There are three voices. But today we heard testimony about water, right? What's the significance of water? Well, the significance of water for that day is at the time of the murders at 8:50 approximately p.m., there was 83% humidity in the air. That was the temperature. And that's homicide 101, where you go in, you mark, what lights are on, what's the room smell like, what's the humidity of that room, is the air conditioner on, is the heater on? Well, that goes also for an outside scene. So the high for that day was 84 degrees and the low was 79. The sunset was 8:29 p.m. And so that day, it was hot. Let's just put it there. It was South Carolina hot. And it was South Carolina humid. And I shared this with you. Karen and I lived in South Carolina for 5 years. So we know what it's like. And I was born in North Carolina, so I've shared that with you and all this other stuff. But that said, so that's very significant, the minutiae details, because now today we hear, testimony from the caretaker about the hose, how he rolled up the hose. Yet the investigators were focused on, and this is a good thing that's coming out in this. I know people are, critiquing them for, stomping all over the scene and all this other stuff. And we're going to get into that. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come up here tonight. But that humidity being 83% that evening, and you can look it up, okay, is significant. Because if in fact he, i.e. Alec, AM, was concealing evidence in the form of, washing things off or anything to that effect, and we don't know that yet. We haven't had evidence of that yet, but we do know there was water pooling based on the testimony today in certain spots. And we also know that around those kennels at that time, there was water outside, but when the video was taken with Paul, there was no water in the kennel where the gentleman's dog was, and he was checking on him. So the first thing I wanted to just point out tonight is the 2 shoes. Okay, now the one on the left, you can't really see very well because it's a screenshot, but I'm only putting it up here so each and every one of you can go take a look at it. So this is Paul's shoe in that kennel on the right. And that is Paul's shoe on the left. So these are, not only do we have his voice, but we have his shoes in the video. And so to me, this is very convincing, real evidence that is Paul on that video. So when they attack the forensic cell phone evidence, just remember there is a shoe that belongs to Paul Murdaugh in that kennel as well. And those same shoes are on him when he was shot. And you can see them in a little clearer picture when you guys go look at it. Okay. and this is it's out of focus because it's a screenshot, but when you guys go look at it yourself, okay, right where to the picture on the right where he's laying, and these are paramedics, these are not law enforcement, and they were there to check the victim. I just put that one in there for tonight for a second. But when he's laying just outside of that door, this picture here to the right it looks like they're looking for shell casings, and there's a sketch now, and all of this stuff is has already come out in testimony. So I just want to show you these couple of quick pictures. These are paramedics. These are not law enforcement officers. The paramedics, sometimes get ahead of you because you're trying to do a whole bunch of things. And they placed looks like a sheet over him, and probably a sheet over her. And so I'm just going to, show a couple of these quick pictures. But here you can see now, as time had gone on the left, that water had started to evaporate because of the humidity that night. So it's pretty quick. If he left at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the testimony was today from the caretaker, he left his hose hooked up, and then he stretched it out, then this water come 8:50 p.m. would have evaporated. And I think that's where the prosecution's going here. I think that's what they're going to do when they come in, or why they brought this testimony in. So now the picture on the right, I wanted to show that because, that we heard testimony today from the ME, and a lot has been brought up about two guns. Okay, well, we know there are two guns. All right. But the question is, does that mean there are two shooters? Well, there's a couple scenarios. Number one, if a shotgun has a sling on it, then if you're intent on killing somebody, you can throw that shotgun on you with a sling, or if the AR had a sling, then now you can carry two guns. Just ask any police officer that runs into an active shooter. That individual has a rifle, a patrol rifle, they have a pistol, and some of them even run with a shotgun. So is it possible to level off a shotgun, boom, then swing up with an AR, boom, 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 boom? The answer is yes. It is very possible to do that. Now, do we know that's what happened? We don't know yet. But what we do know, it is possible. So this is one of the things that we need to keep in mind as we continue to watch this trial together. Now, the injuries to Paul. I went and I looked at all the photographs that came up, and I know we heard testimony where the doctor said he was turning. Okay. So if, for an example, Paul is just at the door frame of that tack room, and as he's coming out, if he gets the first round, and I'm going to go this way. If he gets the first round here on this side and then turns to run, right? That puts him in a perfect position for the testimony we heard from the doctor today, because now that second round goes up behind him and it hits him, and the energy of that shotgun blast, and I would submit to you it's the second shotgun blast, which we heard. And the first one sounds like it was either rat shot or snake shot. there's a variety of words for it. And then the second one was buckshot, right? Those are 32 caliber pellets that are coming out of that. The first one is just scatter shot. And that's the one that wouldn't have killed him. We heard testimony about that. And the second one is the one that would really do you in. In fact, every law enforcement police car with a Remington 870 shotgun or a Brunelli carries this exact same type of load for that reason. It is so devastating. And I've had cases where individuals have taken a gun and put it here right underneath them and, taken off, pulled the trigger. I've had a case where the entire cranium comes up, the brain comes up, and it plops right next to him. Okay. So when I heard that, for the first, when I heard Paul say it, or excuse me, Alex say it, that I was like, well, yeah, that happens. Okay. And we heard testimony today from the doc who has seen it, that it happens. And so the thing that she was trying to say is his facial features were still intact. And I know I want to give, this is just my opinion. Okay. But, may not mean anything, probably doesn't. Just my opinion. But I've seen enough of this to know what it looks like. And so the fact that it was from the back was gone and his brain was laying near him is very consistent with the turning motion away. The thing that I thought was the most striking in this whole thing, no matter what we think at this point, was that he had his arm down by his side. And I think that's where I think that's damaging to the defense. The fact that you have this young man and his arms are down by his side and he takes the first round, which is bird shot, buckshot, rat shot, whatever you want to call it. They're smaller pellets. It's not a fatal wound. And now it looks like, based on even his body position and the sketches, that he's trying to get away. Imagine for a moment the horror of this event. If his father is holding a shotgun in front of him, and now all of this testimony about, everybody had a great relationship. I'm sure they did at some point. But as I said in the Mallory Beach video, I think that was a turning point. And you can go watch it. I said it about a week ago. I felt that was a turning point in this story. Because at that point, not only is it embarrassing to the family, and you'll notice that AM's goal here is to exonerate and clear his son's name. He's obsessed with that. He's obsessed with it. Post-homicide, I would submit to you there is something more in the current here that we do not know yet. It is just underneath there. I mean, we've got the financial stuff. We got you're losing your job. We've got the opioid addiction problem. We've got all of this stuff. But then all of a sudden, your son plows into a pillar, over a bridge near Paris Island, and now your family's being sued for millions and millions of dollars. I think with the obsession of the drugs and pressures that he snapped. I mean, it was just, click. I mean, he was already controlling. Everybody can see that a mile away. I mean, I don't know how many times I've said to Karen, I said, cue the tears. And there's even one of the next interviews with the sled guy where he breaks down and he goes into his motions for a second. Even the sled guy just kind of, tapped him on the back. It's like, and the Oscar goes to, get the red carpet out. I've seen that. I can't tell how many times I've seen that. We used to call, you knew when somebody was sincere because we used to call going for the snot. That means when you get the snot coming out of the nose, those are real tears. Okay. But, I even Nancy Grace pointed it out today where he's got this big box of, Kleenex in front of him. It's like, bring in central casting, set the props up. We got to go here. Okay. We got some crying to do. Okay. And I don't think his crying is in relationship to what's happened. I think his crying is in relationship to maybe past memories or he's been busted. But those tears go away almost, it's almost instantaneous. Okay. I mean, he's like this, he reaches up and, and within a minute, less than that, okay, he's right back into character. Right back into character. I mean, you see a lot of this, you see a lot of this going on, and, all of this going on. Okay. But I want to take you back to the character the first evening. And I want to go back, if this was, like I said about the shooting scene where Cousin Eddie potentially is involved, and you can go watch it. I said it. I said, I think there's some pre-planning going on here. Because that place was so remote and just so off the grid. I was like, 9.2 miles from the guy's house, and somehow somebody shows up and just ambushes him. I don't know. We used to call that buying soggy bread. Who's selling soggy bread? Give me a loaf. Okay? I'm not buying right now. So I want to go back to the very first night, and I want you to watch again. We've seen it 10, 15 times. A couple of things that AM does pretty quickly. Number one, he starts to control the narrative almost instantly. And what's interesting is the narrative that he starts to introduce while his deceased wife and his son, he hasn't figured out yet, based on him getting in the car, or when the first responders got there, that, it sounds like his son's brain is laying next to his body, but he's asking, for the paramedics to get there quickly. Yet on the call, he's telling everybody, well, they're not here. And so he's already in character. He's in character. And we do not know how much time he had to get in character. We're seeing evidence that his cell phone is putting him there. We saw evidence that, it's Paul's phone taking that picture. We've heard 8 separate witnesses now, I believe, who've testified, yeah, that's Alec. That's his voice. Okay. But we don't know after the shooting in totality what his movements were, but we do know there's blood on his steering wheel in his car. And so at some point, something happened with the blood on the victims and the steering wheel in the car. But almost instantly on the phone, he introduces a couple of concepts. Concept number one, he interjects a cell phone conversation. Now, why is that significant? Well, two things. One, Maggie's phone's missing. We hear testimony later on that that's significant. Two, he then introduces that he picked up Paul's phone. Why is that significant? Okay. Well, of course, when you're rolling your son over with his brain laying next to him and his phone falls out, you have to pick it up, right? And you have to think, well, I got to do something. But then I thought, no, I need to put it back down. Okay. You're right. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Okay. So there is no significance to that other than a mistake. And then the third is he introduces the shotgun. Almost immediately introduces the shotgun concept. Why is that significant? Because one, if he was holding a shotgun, now he can say, well, yeah, it was the one I brought down from the house and I laid it next to the truck. Okay. And, officer, I need to tell you something. And I think this one got overlooked. You should probably unload that. So now he's directing law enforcement. He wanted that gun unloaded for a reason. I don't know what that reason is, but I can tell you what, if AM directed it, he had a reason. Because he tells him, and we're going to see it here in a minute, you probably want to unload that. Well, why? You'll notice the officer picks it up and he brings it back to the car and puts it in the front seat of his car and he closes the door. We call that DLR, does not look right. Right? We've talked about this many, many times. Okay. Good for that officer. He didn't do that. He followed protocol. Leave it where it was. Well, he should have left it where it was, to be honest with you, but he didn't. He felt officer safety. He didn't trust that gun around Alex Murdaugh. I would submit to you. Okay. Because even that guy, his red flags went up pretty right away. And it's interesting, they approached from the opposite side. So they went down the right driveway. They didn't go through the kennel driveway. And they came around and they came up behind the kennels. Well, that would have been the exact same way that Maggie probably would have traveled. But you notice Alex's truck is actually the short route, from what I could tell. Okay, from out and in. So we'll see. So let's go. I'm going to play this, and then I'm going to stop, and we're going to talk about some of my observations. Hey, whoops, sorry about that. My bad. Okay, real fast. There's nothing. This is a very stressful situation for any law enforcement, any first responder, anywhere in this country. It does not matter if you are from South Carolina or if you're with, LAPD, LA Sheriff. Every law enforcement officer in this country feels the exact same tension going on and pressure coming in when that radio cracks and says there's two deceased individuals and a gentleman is holding a shotgun. Okay? Because you do not know what you have. Now, it took them about 15, 20 minutes because it's so rural to get out there. But when they do go on scene, what I want to start off with is the emotional impact this officer is having internally right away. And what's happening inside is he and she are assessing officer safety, i.e., watch the hands, we want to go home. Okay? Because now what's going on is when they go on scene, you'll notice the first thing they do is they go into tactical mode. They look over and he radios out what he sees, and i.e., he's putting everybody else on notice who's coming in, listening to the radio. There's somebody deceased over here, gunshot wound to the head. And so now he's going to approach Murdaugh and he's going to ask him, to keep his hands up, and he's going to pat him down real fast to make sure there aren't any guns or bazookas. And we used to say, are there any, guns, bazookas, torpedoes, or anything else inside. Can I pat you down for a minute and you roll them around and you go through their waistband and you roll them up a little bit? Okay. So let's go.
Central on 818 is going to be stationed at Moselle on Crosswalk.
And he's even going to tell him he's going to get out of the car. This is where he's at in his head.
Central Battalion 1 to here, waiting, seems secure.
Central, that was 4147 or 57?
Confirming the address.
4147. Keep your vehicle in the driveway with the flashes on. That's going to be the caller.
Copy, I'm going on scene. It's got a long driveway, but the mailbox out front is labeled. He's not at the end of the driveway.
He's coming around now, and went past that front, figured out the address, came around, and he's going back through right near the kennel route. He's going to swoop around for officer safety.
A few miles out.
Caller Zone 1, sheriff dispatch.
Okay. Notice one thing right away. Look where Paul is. He's at the end of this long area here, and he's up against the building to the right side of the direction where his truck is facing. Well, it just so happens that later on, that area is probably going to be very significant based on the wound patterns and based on the shell casing ejections. I find it interesting when the officer goes on scene, that's the exact spot he finds Mr. Murdaugh. Hang on for a minute. I'm trying to get you back here.
I'm getting out with the caller now.
Getting out of the car. He's telling him that's officer safety.
A few miles out.
Caller Zone 1, sheriff dispatch.
The other officer gets out and says, Sheriff, ID, IE, right? They're identifying themselves. But look where Paul is. See him down range there? Now, the one thing you don't want to do is walk away from two sheriffs pulling up on dead people.
Central 717 scene is secure. Got a Whiskey Fox, Whiskey Mike, both gunshot wounds to the head.
Okay, so right there, that is for all the responding officers and dispatch, i.e. that what he's doing there is telling everybody there are dead people here, i.e. officer safety. Everybody's awareness is way, way up. And Alec now is walking away from the officers when they're pulling up.
I want to let you know because of the scene, I did go.
All right. Now this was really interesting. He utilizes the word because of the scene. I want to let you know. This guy right away, and by the way, I heard that on Nancy's show the other day. I forget the guest who said it, but what an observation. That he nailed it. And who in their right mind sees their loved ones deceased, and immediately you identify that being a scene? I tell you, that DLR right there does not look right. Look at his body language. It's crossed over, and immediately he's going to tell him and introduce the first concept of the shotgun.
Go get a gun and bring it down here.
It's in your vehicle? Do you have any guns on you at all?
No, sir. It's leaning up against the side of my car.
You notice what the officer's asking him? Do you have any guns on you? And AM is telling him, oh, no, there's a gun over here, there's a gun over there. That officer knows that gun, he saw it. Okay?
You're fine.
Sure.
You're fine.
See, what he's trying to do is slow him down. I get that. What about you? So this officer's he thinks this is hanky right from the day or from the moment he steps out of that car. This just doesn't feel right.
Around for me?
I don't have any.
Okay. Yes, sir. I see that. Okay. This is your wife and son?
And son.
Okay.
Okay, so he's introduced the shotgun. Now the officer is going to take note.
It's bad.
There it is.
It's bad. Check the pulses.
Yes, sir.
It's bad.
This is the firearm you brought from inside the house?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I went and this is a long story.
Okay. Introduction number 2. This is a long story. Did you notice the officer didn't ask him anything? The officer is still in safety mode. He's got 2 deceased people around him. He's got a dispatcher who's telling him a gentleman is outside, identifying that he has a shotgun. You now know where the shotgun is at, and guess what? All of a sudden, the narrative begins. And guess what the narrative is about? And I think we all heard it. Guess what?
My son was in a boat wreck a few months back. He's been getting threats. Most of it's been benign stuff we didn't take serious.
Okay.
He's been getting punched.
Okay. That's called a spontaneous statement. And immediately it's some other guy. And immediately it's connected to the boat wreck. But you'll notice where Alex is going to have a problem is when he got in the car later on. And then he introduced the guy who was on the hit team with the Navy SEALs killing the Black Panthers. Well, those investigators, they're taking all this in. But this officer who's done a really good job here is 100% on target going, let him talk. But the officer didn't even ask him a question.
I know that's what it is.
Okay. When did you get home? Right when you called, or did you go to the house first? Where is the house?
I came to the house first. My mom has late stages Alzheimer's.
He didn't even answer the question. Where's the house? He went in narrative number 2. Narrative number 2 is my mom has Alzheimer's. And why is that important now? We see the significance of that based on the testimony that I think it was Miss Shelley, where he shows up and Alex tries to get her. Belinda Rass, the caregiver, Alex's parents. Remember, they were there the day before with Krispy Kreme donuts. And even the father was like, what? Is there a raspberry one? And this is why Maggie was a little hinky, because she calls her sister and says, Alex wants to go back over. That's kind of weird. We were just there last night. That's weird. But the very first moment this day, he is throwing up the narrative. The very first moment, he's throwing it up. Now, that takes some thinking if this is premeditated.
And my dad is in the hospital.
Okay.
I left. I don't know what time. I can go back on my phone and tell you the exact times. Did you check?
Okay. Did I check what?
Did you check them?
Now, this is a seasoned prosecutor who has prosecuted murders. He knows when people are dead because he says it in the car where he says, I saw his brain. I knew he was dead, but that was, cue the tears. Okay.
We got medical guys that are, that's what they're going to do. Okay.
What are they doing? Can they hurry?
They are. Yes, sir. That gentleman that was out here already, he's one of the battalion chiefs. Okay. How did you pull up? You from back there?
I went to the house and they weren't home, which was odd. I tried to call.
Okay.
And then I knew they had been down here before I left.
See, that officer's worried about that shotgun. You see him moving towards that shotgun? And did you see where the light went with the officer? That officer does not trust him. I'm going to submit that to you. He does not trust him. He is worried about that shotgun because watch what he
I
does.
have to go to my mom.
Okay.
You see him moving towards that shotgun, and now the officer goes over.
Is this the only firearm with you?
And
This
what
is
he's
the
going
only
to
one,
do
or
is
is there any
secure
more in
it.
the truck?
I believe that's it.
You think that's the only one? Okay.
I'm 99%.
Do you normally
certain that's
have
right.
any other firearms in your vehicle?
I don't, but
Okay.
occasionally there's a pistol in there.
Okay.
So one of the things that are very subtle, and I'm going to show this here in a second. He says, I believe there's a pistol in there, while shaking his head no. All right. Now I'm going to play this back for a second and listen and watch his head. Very subtle body
I
language.
believe that's it.
You think that's the only one? Okay.
I'm 99%.
Do you normally
certain that's
have
right.
any other firearms in your vehicle?
I don't, but
Okay.
occasionally there's a pistol in there.
Okay.
See there? Right there. Very subtle. Very subtle. And that messaging in of itself, what this officer is thinking is, I got to get this gun. I got to make sure there's no more guns here. I'm not sure about this yet. You notice his questioning is all focused around what time did you get here and are there any more guns? He's not offered, so what happened? Okay, so what happened? He's not saying that. He's not asking that. Now he's going to secure the weapon. There
Just
it
wait
is.
right here for me for a second, okay?
And now he realizes, okay, he got the gun, but you notice he turned around to look at him. All right? Because remember, he's still not sure what's going on here. This poor patrol guy is just doing his job right now, and he wants to go home. And so what he's doing is he's grabbing inch by inch every moment that's taking place here.
Kill your front light 13C. Enjoy it, sir.
Well, I've already spoken with Captain Deal. He's got a crime scene.
Okay, now I've heard a lot of people talk about these guys are walking back and forth through this crime scene. Okay, and you know there's some of that, okay, going on. But remember, this is still an officer safety situation. He doesn't know, you know, if this is the suspect, are there other suspects out there? I got to secure this gun. I'm going to go back to where this guy was. So, you know, I think that's always important. And I hope the prosecution's able to lay it out for the jury clearly that they were not stomping through the crime scene at this moment anyway. I mean, they are, but they're not, because you don't know what you have.
Contact them. He's also
Not uncommon. There was an old video years ago of a liquor store robbery in LA, and where the homicide gets there and they're like, how secure is the scene? It says, oh, it's tight, Sarge. There's nothing, no problems, nowhere, nobody, not an issue. Great. So they play back the video and there were like 52 people that went through the crime scene. I mean, it was oy vey, you got to be kidding me. Well, at least in this situation, you have a cover officer who is keeping an eye on things, you notice, and then this officer here who is going and doing the right things here.
Give us the assistance of a couple of field agents.
Roger that. No,
They're dead on
out.
it. They are dead on
I
it.
just turned all those up.
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
Randy.
So, you know, you might as well pick up the phone and call everybody. You might as well pick up the phone and call everybody. You know, you're And by the way, remember one of the first things he said is he wanted to call Paul's friend. And he said that in the car right after this.
Where are you now? All right. Yeah, the police are here now. The police are here now.
Affirmative.
That's my brother.
Okay.
Who became a very interesting character in this, didn't he? By verbiage.
When was the last time you were here with them? Or talked to them or anything like that?
All right. Now, here's an interesting observation about that question. He asked him, when was the last time you were here with them or talked to them? And notice what AM does. He looks at him and then he turns away. I would submit to you that is a mechanism for him to think and control the narrative. See him walking away there. Control the narrative, think. Okay, I got my thought. I'm back. And watch what
Yeah, the
the
police are
officer
here
asks.
now. The police are here now.
Affirmative.
That's my brother.
Okay.
And here's the question.
When was the last time you were here with them? Or talked to them or anything like that?
There, turn away, walk. Don't answer the question, right? Turn away and walk. Think, okay, I'm back.
It was earlier tonight. I don't know the exact time, but
You're going to hear a lot of I don't knows.
Okay.
I left. I was probably gone an hour and a half from my mom's, and I saw them about 45 minutes before that.
Okay.
I rode around with Paul for 2 hours this afternoon in the pickup truck.
That's your son, Paul? Okay.
Somebody going to check him?
Yes, sir. They've already checked them.
They did check him?
Yes, sir.
It's official that they're dead?
Yes, sir. That's what it looks like.
I'm sorry.
No. You're fine.
I'm very sorry.
So I can tell you this. I've seen a lot of people in trauma and a lot of family members, of course, including myself and others. This is not normal. This is not normal. And I know people are going to say, well, people grieve differently. Yeah, they do. They do. But typically in a situation like this where you've just discovered your son, his brain's laying next to him, your sweet wife of 30-something years is dead in front of you, and all your life experiences has told you that you've seen a lot of this in the courtroom, you've taken it to the courtroom, and now you're living it. I'm here to tell you, you're a basket case at that moment. You're a basket case. And I'm not ashamed to say it, but when they brought my son, when I saw the ME's van pull up, I collapsed in the street. My wife will tell you. It was just too much for me. It was too much for me. Now, the good news is the good Lord's been good to me. And, that was 2003. So we're into 20 years this year. And time does help. It never goes away, but it does help. In this situation, he tells the cops in the car, well, I knew they were dead. And yet the first questions he asked him is, are they dead?
Gotta call her parents.
What's her name?
Her name is Maggie Murdaugh. Margaret Brandstetter Murdaugh. How you doing?
What's her birthday?
9/15/68.
Okay, and what's your son's first name? You said Paul?
Paul. Carrie Murdaugh.
And what's his birthday?
Jason, do you have anybody
4.
coming through town that could stop and pick up that tent? I see lighting off in the distance.
What are they covering them up?
I got some getting dressed now, Sheriff. I'll have somebody stop and grab it.
Tell them they don't have to do that. They don't need to. Preserve what we can.
653. Where's it at? I'm in town.
I should try to be Delta 8 because he's going to be the only one that's got access.
What's
to where
Paul's
it is
birthday?
right now.
Copy.
April 14th, 1999, sir.
Put it up as wide as you can. That's fine. You said 99?
Sir?
He was born in 99?
He's born April 14th, 1999.
Okay. What's your first name, sir?
My name is Alex Richard Alexander Murdaugh.
And is he on the phone again?
Richard Alexander Murdaugh?
No. Okay.
With the location.
I couldn't tell.
No.
Sheriff,
Hey,
don't be affirmative.
Cody,
It's what I'm thinking
come around the
about. Been out
truck
there before.
and then go to the building. Come around the truck and then...
There's a set of prints off behind the trailer there.
Yes.
I don't know if it's from
What's
one
that?
of ours or not. There's a set of footprints behind the trailer there too.
Okay.
That's why we kind of step out, stay around this whole here so we don't step over anything.
653, 743. Just 8's going to be the last one in and grabbing the tent. We'll get them. Start 35. I'm sure.
The scene's starting to be locked on, but notice they're keeping a light on him. They still don't trust him.
I'm almost to you. Let me see what we have first and whether or not we're going to handle that part or not.
He keeps walking away to process, get on the phone, and start putting into motion all the other pieces of this puzzle.
Tracks in here. Were any of these you going in and out?
No, I came in here and I left one time and I came back.
Okay.
But the rest of them, maybe
Okay.
from earlier, but
Okay.
only 2 are mine.
Did you go out this way at all?
No.
Well, that's right.
Hey, stay here. Got a whole bunch of stuff right there. I don't want disturbed.
No, that's why I'm trying to close the door here so we can kind of get around that way.
So this shows you that they're conscientious of evidence. And what they're trying to do is figure out what we call pathway in, pathway out. And so what happens is, and I would submit to you, those boot prints are probably going to be the paramedics. It's not uncommon. And, you know, for the paramedics to get there right away and, you know, do their thing. And sometimes they step in unfortunately body fluids or the blood. Remember, it's their job to, you know, do the ABCs, right? Airway, breathing, circulation, to make sure the individual is either A, dead, or B, can we save them? And, you know, in larger agencies, they have this protocol that when medics get on the scene, and if there's been first responders on the scene, typically, you know, you get one guy and you say, you know, go ahead, you know, tell me if he's deceased from a medical, you know, observation. And if so, go in this way and then come out this way. But in this case, this officer was dealing with Alex, with AM at the other end. And so they came in from the other end. So immediately they started to do what paramedics do, and God bless them. They started to go see if they could save this kid. And when they got up there, you know, they could have stepped in blood. That is not uncommon, but that is not contaminating the scene or stomping all over the scene. It happens because you have your first mission is to save life. And that's what they were probably trying to do. Okay. So let's keep that in mind. And now they're trying to figure out, and even the paramedics are telling them, hey, I don't know if do we want to go, where do you want us to go?
Your best way is probably going to be back through those rocks because we can't get any tracks off those rocks anymore.
See?
We'll go back around the other way we just came.
Okay. Thank you.
Each same.
Yep. Do you have name or anything for him?
Yes.
Okay, I'll get that in a little bit. Then that's
Okay.
fine.
The officer can't grab Murdaugh right at this point and put him in his car because his car's at the other end and it's technically inside the crime scene now. You'll notice when they were processing it, they left it in there all night. So they can't, put him in it.
What unit's 23 on Moselle? Alpha 7 unit on scene. Are you behind the house?
There's several of us out here. There's a long dirt driveway right next to the mailbox that says 4147, and you'll see all our lights down here at this shed thing.
You didn't come through Brick Hollow?
Negative.
The reason he's going over here to this area, because this is where he saw AM emerge from when he first pulled up. He's triple checking that area. But he still has to deal with Hollywood. This officer's doing a good job. I mean, he's maintaining position. He's waiting for other people to get there to control the scene even further.
653.
And Hollywood's back there. He's got to keep an eye on him.
Telephone Saudi.
I think the dogs recognize what's going on. They're already starting to look for shell casings.
Yeah.
There you go. Now, this is important because we heard testimony today that Paul gets shot from the left side. So what they're doing is, remember, and if it's a Benelli shotgun, the ejection port's going to be over here to the right side. So if he's facing him right, about, according to the testimony today, within 3 feet, that means he's closer to the door. All right. And if he's closer to the door when he fires, those shell casings are going to come kicking out. You've got 2 of them. Sometimes in rural settings like this, they put, bird shot or snake shot or rat shot. That's what they call it because of snakes. And that's the first round out of the shotgun. And that will usually take care of it. And then, of course, then it's double-aught right behind it, buckshot. Okay. And so in this particular situation, the first round that goes off, that's where Paul gets hit, according to the doctor, in the upper left, in the left-hand side. And then if he's now right about, if you you take where this officer is and move him closer to the shed, okay, Paul is actually trying to go to the right towards those lights. And that's when he gets the second blast. And that's the one that was the fatal blast. Okay. So and now if you have an AR and it's on a sling, now you can turn and start working towards where Maggie is. Makes sense. You see that officer on the other side over there where he is? He's looking for shell casings down there, right where it's blurred, right there.
I think his brother. He said he was calling somebody. So.
And now here, if the shooter was there, I'm going to go back here for a second. the shooter has to turn, and now those shell casings are not going to go towards that open door, that little fence, little chicken thing or whatever it is there. The shell casing for the shotgun are going to go that way, and the AR are going to go the other way because the shooter has to turn. Okay. Or if he's moving, and we heard testimony that the shooter appeared to be moving and went around her, and the first round took her down, and then the shooter, it appeared that the shooter was moving. Okay. This is very plausible for a single shooter with two guns. Very plausible. You have a single shotgun, boom, boom. That one's done. Come up with the sling, boom, 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 boom. And this can go down in probably 5 seconds, 10 seconds.
I think his brother. He said he was calling somebody. So.
He said what?
He said he was calling somebody.
Okay. If he was rolling over in
Yeah, I'm sure he was. There's a couple of shell casings right there.
Yeah, those will be easy to find. I was just marking a couple that were in the gravel. It might be harder to see at some point. Y'all familiar with this family?
Yes. I wasn't until he told me the names.
the name.
Last
fill you
name
in later.
Murdaugh.
I don't.
Anything else you need?
I don't think there's gonna be anything from anybody either.
What is that?
Because I'd say.
You said for Evo to do?
Yeah.
So he's on the phone. You can hear him in the background.
Yes. Okay, yeah. Hey, watch your step.
You see, they're telling everybody, pay attention.
Huh?
That's all we have to right
There
now.
are.
Yeah.
Okay.
X-ray one's gonna be route to Moselle Road.
The gentleman in the white shirt is the husband of her, father of him. That is Paul Murdaugh. That's just his mother. Paul Murdaugh was that guy in the boating accident from a while back, if you remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is just look at this guy. This is the Kaka moment. Oh, crap.
Most likely. He did have a firearm whenever I pulled up. It's a shotgun. It's been secured in my vehicle.
There's 300 blackout.
Did you hear that? 300 blackout. They knew immediately. Now let's talk about the shells or the projectiles of 300 blackout. They're 30 caliber. They're 5.56 round, and they tumble when they're fired. They do unbelievable damage when they hit something. I mean, it's the velocity of those rounds are just horrible, and they tumble, and when they hit you, I've had shootings where I had a guy one time. He actually got it from this side, came in here, the round traveled right along his bone and just blew out the rest of his arm. They're made for war. That's what they're, I mean, they're very bad weapons, and meaning rounds, not the weapon itself. I've never arrested a gun. I've only arrested the people that pulled the trigger. Okay. It's not the tool. It's the individual pulling the trigger. In fact, I don't have a single AR in prison. In all my time. That said, if they're in the wrong hands, i.e. somebody who's intent with pure evil, then they're very deadly. They're horrendous. Okay? And so that round is going so fast, poor Maggie didn't have a chance. I'm wondering in my mind that if she witnessed Paul getting shot and then started running towards him, and that's why she's face down where she's at when he turns and then lets her have it. I can't help but think that. Then he walks over and does the coup de grace.
When you get a chance, can you give dispatch a phone call?
You will have to give me just a few minutes, but yes, I will.
Did Maggie get hit first in the back or in the front? Because she's facing the kennel.
I couldn't have been further away from this car.
Yeah.
653.
I don't know. I mean, I looked at the sketch. I'm watching this. I saw where her body position is. Her body is facing the kennel. It's not away from the kennel, i.e. her legs are not away from Paul. Her legs, are at this end and her torso is at this end. Okay. She's facing the kennel and Paul is facing, kind of at this angle at the door frame, away as if he was turning towards the dog kennel. And Maggie, I'm wondering if she was just being mama bear and was coming at him and he took her out.
Who's the most expendable that can start a log? Let's put it that way.
Can you start a crime scene log, please?
See, there's
the log
Maggie.
started. Sled's on the way. Let's push. Can we run the tape
2007 Brody
there to there?
Yes.
From that
Give me the
last
tape,
pole
go
right
start
there
a log.
to that last
Get a
pole.
piece of paper, start writing names and times. You don't have any kind of paper?
I have a
See, they're see that one officer there with the light up in the air? They are still worried that something's going on here, that this is still an active scene. Look at, he's got the flashlight and he's scanning.
Here, borrow that.
We can push it from that pole to that pole.
Yep.
And now they're talking about pushing the scene, i.e. making it bigger, just in case. Yeah, so I can see Maggie, if this thing goes down with Paul, and then her reaction as a mom is to go, and then him letting her, getting a couple of rounds, getting around, and then that, her kind of running, and then, her falling, but I just, the way her body's positioned and the testimony we heard from the doctor, I'm just wondering if she wasn't going to go for her son to try to protect him, but it was too late. Like any mother would do. So now they're pushing the scene, and
I do see some.
AM is just kind of cruising.
That look old or fresh?
One critique I would have, they should have secured him with an officer at this point. Somebody should have had him sitting down, somewhere in a patrol car, chilling.
Old, yes.
But they're waiting for sled, because you can hear them talking about, has everybody been notified? Yeah, cuffed to a bumper. Cheryl. Yeah, right. Good one.
I'll just hold the light for you. Go all the way to that post. Marty, let's just keep our fingers crossed. Yeah, I think we got it.
So people aren't going to be happy with me, but I've given him a new name. I'm calling him Hollywood. He's still over off into the upper left there. They know what they're dealing with. This is a prominent family in this town. You heard him say, you know who this is, the boating accident. The boating accident came up, and now, they're kind of, they're kid gloves. Not that they're going to give him a break. They're just watching him.
Sierra 77. Probably doing that 66 on 95. Copy.
What's the other way in here?
From back that way, I guess. Where the house is, I guess.
Now, that's an interesting comment because even the responding officers are trying to figure out how do you get down there from the house.
Okay, that must be
You referring to the Whiskey Mike? Last walk with a key? Affirmative. Do we have anything else?
Well, I hear him.
Copy.
Okay, so there, they did assign somebody to watch him. That's good. I'm glad we're seeing that. Now they're looking for shell casings. He's going back over where he first came, where he saw.
Correct.
like I was trying to say, I have a notepad. It's just I'm
Yes.
using the back side of all the paper, so all the front side of the paper has names and information on it.
Well, you can borrow mine for a minute. It's perfectly fine, Cody.
I just didn't want you to be like, we're doing also doing fucking paper now. I have paper for calls.
Do you not have any crime scene log sheets? Hey, it's 717. I was asked to give you guys a call.
Have any of those.
Hi. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so I will kind of critique one thing here. Now that you've got the scene locked up, right? And, you know, smaller agencies don't have the luxury of, 40 guys showing up and, holding off and locking it down. At this point, with all the tape up, they should have, I would think, just say, okay, everybody out. We got a one way in, one way out, and then identify what that direction is. All right. And then you get the crime scene log out and everybody signs in. Time of arrival, in and out. So just as a thought, I don't know if the defense is going to eat them up on this one. They'll do that for the footprints. But to be honest with you, the footprints aren't as important as, because you've got the dog video putting him at the scene. The footprints would have put him at the scene as a bonus, but then you have to have the shoes. So they're more concerned with finding the shell casings, because if they find the gun, then they can do ballistics and they can match not only the ejection ports, but the hammer where the round was struck. Okay.
I will inquire and I'll get back to you.
Yeah, and the two-shooter theory of using the family guns, there just happened to be, a gun missing, and then, taking them in the middle of the night like that from that geographic region. I'm here to tell you from a victim continuum, if let's do that exercise, shall we? Shall we go environment, situation, circumstance on one L, then the other L, low, medium, high. Okay. So here's the environment, right? It's out in the middle of nowhere. Is that a high, medium, or low risk activity for the victims, for both of them? Low. Okay. The situation, they're out by some dog kennels. Okay. High, low, or medium risk activity? Low. Okay. Circumstance, okay. Well, they're out there to meet somebody. High, medium, or low? Low. Okay. So now, statistically, low means they were targeted. Statistically. All right. So that takes now the stranger danger out of this scenario in statistics, i.e., law enforcement science, from what they have studied for years and years and years. And it's called the victim risk continuum. So in a homicide scene like this, the first thing you're going to do is start assessing, okay, what do we got here? Okay, this is all a low risk activity. Okay, well, who's here? Well, the husband. Okay, and what did he say? He told me about a boating accident. Well, his wife is dead right here? Yeah, and then he said his son's brain was hanging out, and but he needed to tell me about a boating accident. Oh, okay. Let's go ahead and grab a loaf of soggy bread off of the shelf, shall we? Well, we got a chance. And by the way, where are the guns? Well, there's only one shotgun, and he said he had it. Okay, what else did he say? Well, nothing at this point, but later on, he's going to tell everybody, as we know. I rolled Paul over and his cell phone came out. Well, which way did he roll him? Because Paul's brain was next to him and his head would have been mush. So when he rolled him, which way did he go? Did he roll him to the right? Did he roll him to the left? And if so, where did it fall out of his t-shirt? Did it come out of his pocket? Which pocket? Left pocket or right pocket? Was it in his back pocket? And did it fall out of his back pocket when you rolled him over? And by the way, why did you roll him over? Because if you look at his feet position in the doorway, that would have shown a movement. You would have seen blood move. Blood moves when it's moved. And then there's no blood on him, right? So that is, he's adding to the narrative. He introduces the cell phone narrative in the car. He introduces the shotgun narrative in the field when they first arrive. And he introduces the boating narrative when they arrive almost immediately. But he didn't start off with that in the car. He started off, with, weirdness other than the boating incident. And then he brought up, this guy who's, getting hired by Navy SEALs going around and, taking out. And even he says, I got to be honest with you, this one even sounds crazy. And I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he does. He kind of gives them a heads up. Hey, I'm about ready to lie to you, so just stand by. This is going to be a really good one. Did I tell you the Navy SEAL story? Okay. Get hold of Shipley, somebody. He's a real Navy SEAL. Love those guys. Don't dishonor them like that.
Okay. All right. I'll find out and give you a call back. Yep.
Now the water's out there. See the water now? This is why the water was so significant in the testimony today. You can really see it clearly here on the left side. And it was 80, let me look at my humidity, 83% humidity. That water would have been evaporated. I think that's where they're going. Now, I looked at those pictures earlier in terms of the ones that are online, and there are parts of his cranium in there and other stuff. And you could clearly see that, if you've never seen what a shotgun can do, it's horrific. And, the defense trying to, lay out what they did today. I mean, you got to bless, God bless them for doing what they're doing. But, if he would have taken a round straight on, his head would have been gone.
That's all right, I'm gonna grab a couple.
Well, I got some right here, Jason.
Hey, you want us to close that in?
Sir, was that?
You want us to close it in?
Yeah.
Now, the real, what they're figuring out here, or they're thinking, I would submit to you, is they see that the inside of that shed has a lot of body tissue. So that's where I think they're thinking, well, you know, we can walk out here, but I got to be honest with you, they should have just shut it down at this point.
There's a guy, I don't know if you want to see what the other guy knows, whoever Eric is, I guess the caller. There's a guy over here that's wanting to talk to him. But I told you what he's
Don't even know who Eric is. I know an Alex over
Alex. Alex.
there. Okay.
Okay.
There's a guy over here that wants to talk to him.
Yeah, but I didn't know if you wanted me to tell him that
So now people have shown up to have a conversation.
or if you wanted me to just chill for a minute. Or if you wanted me to escort him over.
He does not need to walk over
You
there.
know what I mean? A long way.
He does not need to go over there.
So you can stay there then.
He can. Gotcha.
I don't have the caller and the caller's brother's name in here because I don't know their names yet, but I can get it. But I didn't.
I already wrote it in there.
Alright. I don't know where you were at. I just found the first empty page I can find.
Female victim, male caller.
And then the other guy though, I mean he hasn't came inside the tape yet.
Then don't have to worry about him.
Okay, so he's getting the crime scene log started. That's what he's doing. That's what Pruitt's doing.
Just make sure you get the here.
For me and you and all of us got here.
The time of call.
Is that what you're about to say?
Yes.
Yeah, let me jump through here.
787 Central.
So now they're in a holding pattern.
When you're clear, I have a call on Majestic of a suspicious vehicle. Copy. Where's that located?
Let me go ahead here, go up a little bit further. Oops, let me get back.
It's 223 Majestic Oak Way in Titusville. 10-4. There's a Cottersville unit that can assist. That'd be great.
Pretty sure Majestic Oaks is their jurisdiction anyway.
Central 505. I believe that's not their jurisdiction anyway. I'll take care of that.
Copy.
See, they're still looking for show casings. They're talking about them.
23 Majestic Oak.
The good news is most everything is pressing the other way near where AM's truck is. So they're down at this end.
Copy. Stand by, I'm trying to get the information. It's a gray Trailblazer.
More people coming, supervisors,
It's unknown what type of vehicle. She has a gray Trailblazer.
SLED.
In her yard that belongs to her.
They've been notified, I'm sure.
She can only see the tail lights of the vehicle. She is also threatening to use her compost. It happened about 5 minutes ago.
So one of the, I've heard, different theories about, people. We know that he obviously had different clothing on. We heard testimony of that. Okay. And it, the hose is very important. I mean, that's really important for some reason. I would submit to you again that he hosed something off, some evidence somewhere. Obviously, he didn't get it all because it's inside the shed as well and around Paul. I can't tell if it is. Does anybody know if the ground was wet? I know that there was some testimony to that the kennels were all wet, but I'm not seeing if the dirt is wet. Yeah, okay. It looks like the shot shows, and the door found it. Okay. Or they were ejected into that direction, because if he was standing outside, that right ejection port would send him into the shed. Keep that, just consider that as well.
Yes, sir.
It had been raining. Okay.
We're going to discuss it later and find out.
Okay. Just I was making sure I didn't miss something.
Nope.
I looked at the weather, and I'm not seeing that it was raining. It said it was 84 and 79, 83% humidity. Did you see that flashlight when he was telling him what he was telling him there? Watch. See, right where his light's going up there? They're to the right side of Paul.
Well, the dad's over there. Actually, hold on.
See, they're trying to figure out the trajectory.
Fire rescue might have some more sheets we can steal.
That's right. It shouldn't be like 550 law enforcement.
There is law enforcement.
Now, that guy who just stepped in the shed, that was a mistake. So they're looking for shell casings underneath him. And, again, this just goes towards a lot of this doesn't happen all the time there. They should have locked it down, waited. They didn't. This is what they did.
Not unless it's the shortest 300 blackouts ever been made.
I don't think he put that phone back.
Look at the dog.
I haven't asked the dad about the phone, but Dad did say he came over and checked their pulses. Beyond that, I don't know what else he may have done.
They could have also been thinking of, I don't know.
He had a shotgun.
He did have a shotgun with him, and I have secured that in my vehicle.
Yeah, but it's an upward shot. There's just one all over the city. Yeah, but that's because he gets his head off. So that is done. I think he's going to need to take back down.
There's the water right there.
Yep.
So
I've got multiple gunshots out of that window too.
do we see a shell?
At least 3.
A shell.
Got it.
Yes.
You need in and out times or just times arrive? Like if they exit multiple times and come back in?
You don't need to keep doing all that.
Okay. I wanted to make sure before.
Yeah.
See, he's going back to the area where when he first responded, where AM came from. So he's still hanked up about that. Now he's going to check the holes. Some of the pellets went through and through.
Just so you know, I've got at least 5 holes in the window in the back of that shed where rounds were exiting out back that way.
Which is going to be buckshot because of the damn water on the pole. And he was carrying a shotgun on the guy.
It is currently in my vehicle.
Yep.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, it does look like it's starting to rain, guys. I guess I was wrong. Apologize. The weather said it wasn't, but
Yeah, I'm even slightly more confused now if that is a suicide.
How many pellets are normally in a buckshot?
10, 12.
The reason I asked is just because the holes that are in that window look very large.
Yeah, there's some glass.
Some of them larger, some of them smaller.
It'd be hard to, you'd need it in wood or something solid.
There's a whole bunch of trees back there, so they might be able to find something in a tree. I don't know.
What are they thinking now?
Well,
I have no clue, but
he
here's
had a
what I'm
shotgun.
gonna do.
He had a shotgun. But don't know.
But basically, not his actual
So you got a power and negative contact with any
is on the ceiling.
and something else.
So if you're shot at an upper angle, the shotgun wad laying on the floor,
Appreciate it.
that would point to suicide. That doesn't explain her or all the 300 black.
Think he got here, took the shotgun?
That's what I'm saying.
Possible.
But yeah, that's the outlier.
Yeah, that and the
300 black.
dozen shell casings from 300 blackout.
okay, so they're just sorting through now, waiting for everybody to show up. I don't know where Hollywood is, but I think the biggest critique that the defense is going to have is while they were waiting, people were walking around. But in a situation like that where they're kind of it's an outdoor scene like that, they've got the body contained, they've got the room contained. I saw one mistake with the guy stepping in to the room. The other can be explained. That officer needs to have his boots photographed because if that was his bloody footprint, then that's a problem. The paramedics are understandable. We used to take their boot prints pretty quickly, even before they left the scene. When the CSI folks show up, you take your ruler, take a picture of the bottom of their footprints. I think if I saw Hollywood was wearing a pair of sandals or something to that effect, but I think tonight, with him just introducing the ideas that he did, and with Paul taking 2 gunshot wounds, and the wadding and bedding on the left side of his chest, the stippling, which is basically within 3 feet, soot and stippling and gas, they talked about today. Obviously, the ME went over it pretty well. Typically, if you have a close contact wound, and this is what she was trying to say, this is a close contact. Okay. And when you press the trigger, the gas is going to be so powerful. It literally, and I've seen it happen because I've had cases like this. I had a suicide, a guy outside of a restaurant. I'm not going to tell you the name of it. And he was sitting out in front and boom. and his brain went and just dropped right next to him. And he was just laying there, shotgun laying over next to him. The top of his head was off. And, was like, whoa, that's crazy. That's a showstopper. But that's because of the gas, the gas that's coming so close, the gas goes into the cranium and it's a contained environment that it just goes pop. And I've had many, medical examiners explain how it works. And, it's crazy, but it does that. And so same here where looks like he's turning, and his body position's consistent with that. This was definitely a close encounter with Paul and the shooter. And just think about that. If AM is convicted of this crime, to think that you're watching your father level a shotgun up at you. And the first round that goes off is, rat shot or bird shot, right? And then the second, and you see it and you get hit, and then you start to react, and boom, the second round that goes off, you're out of here. You're out of here. That's horrible. Absolutely horrible. And then, if mom is also in the environment and she's coming to help, and she takes a military rifle round, man. And so, this here is what the ME was trying to say. This isn't when he was shown in the book, okay, that, hey, isn't this literature? She was trying to say, yeah, but that's different than what I'm talking about. I'm talking of a distance of about, within 3 feet. So it's back here. Okay. It's not here. And that's what the ME was trying to get the defense attorney. And I think he was just trying to muddy the water so that everybody goes, what? Gas, what wads, what does this mean? Birdshot, pellets. Okay. And so the second round was the fatal round. That's the one that did all the damage from the double epoch. 8 pellets will come through you and take off your back of your head, which it did for this poor kid. And so, but think about it. His arm was down by his side. So was this a total setup and then ambush? It's interesting that Alex chose an ambush for himself, for his suicide. Think about that. It's interesting that his family was ambushed. So I would submit to you, Alex ambushed him, just as he tried to get somebody to ambush him to make it look consistent. Make it look consistent. A leopard doesn't lose its spots. And I think I can't wait for the testimony. I hope they put that guy on who was hired for Cousin Eddie. I hope Cousin Eddie comes in and starts testifying about it. But, trying to find out, if Hollywood's going to be animated tomorrow, I mean, wiping his eyes, pulling a tissue box and all that stuff, we've got a whole bunch of that coming. There's going to be a lot more coming, especially when the defense, if he gets on the stand, that's right out of central casting if he takes a stand. But I don't know. I mean, I hear there's rumblings. I mean, Nancy Grace was talking about it today. There's rumblings that he's going to take the stand. I don't know. It's probably not a good move because I think the prosecution's just hoping that he takes the stand. And then, of course, you see the body position again tonight where this poor young man, and when I say that, I realize the other things that he's involved in, but as we used to say in homicide, we don't get to choose our victims. They are victims, Mallory Beach is a victim. Mallory's family is a victim. Maggie's family is a victim. Paul's parents were victims. Or excuse me, Paul's grandparents were victims. There's a whole bunch of repercussions here. I'm not sure about some of the other things that are going on around that family. I'm diving into it. Really curious to see what's going on. It's a really bad environment around this name. And it seems like it's just going to get more and more interesting. I got to tell you, I loved the caretaker today for the dogs. I don't know about you. I loved old boy. Man, did he get up there and call it straight and didn't even blink. I think he did a service to that community. And yes, Stephen Smith is a victim, and we're looking into that, trust me, and others. It's like this whole domino effect going here. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So let's grab a couple questions real fast. And so what's a question you guys may or may not have? And I don't know if I have the right answer or not, but I'll certainly give it a try. Dale, there it is. Dale was awesome. He rolled that hose. And you know what? That's a man who takes pride in his work, right? Gotta love him for that. Is he in custody at this point? He's locked up. He's on trial. I hope so. It's a good move to put him on stand. He will show true colors. That's an interesting comment, Beach Butterfly. Okay. I hope they bring it home, Linda. I really do. I think the biggest challenge, that I saw with the crime scene is just people stepping. But other than that, looks like everything else is dialed in. I mean, they've got everything going in terms of the sketch, the collection, the forensics. It's all dialed in, and you can't blame these young officers who don't roll up on these things every single day. So, I think they'll get beat up a little. And because the old saying, when you don't have anything, you blame the cops. Just look at some of the cases I've been involved in. I mean, I've got, hundreds of murders that I've worked, and people bring up one murder and then they lie about it left and right. So it just happens. It comes with the territory on problem. Unfortunately. His body language says it all. I totally agree. Laura, when he steps into the scene and he starts introducing, just think about the depth of that statement when he first stepped in to the conversation. He throws that girl and her scenario immediately under the bus. Think about that. He takes the Mallory Beach case and introduces it into a double homicide. Wow. This is what would be a reason for not put Cousin Eddie on the stand? Thank you, Carrie. I think it can go either way. If he is, just kind of off his rocker and he starts going into left field, then it's quite a battle for the prosecution to take it back. What are the most damaging evidence so far? I think the forensics evidence is bad and puts him there. I think the DNA on the steering wheel, of course, DNA is always solid evidence. You'd have to go to another planet, but it all becomes the cell. It all becomes, who can sell it the best, the defense or the prosecution. And we saw how some defense attorneys can sell it. There's 5 steps to a sale. I keep mentioning prospect, personalize, promote, create, and close. So he's been trying to sell this story from the moment the cops showed up. And we don't even know, and thank you, we don't even know what he did in that other hour or the time frame, the gap. We have a couple of reasons to think this is a motive. 10 million have to pay out. Paul is gone. Yeah. Murder, suicide, make it look like it was somebody else did it. And he introduces that. Keep that in mind. He introduces the phone. He introduces the narratives. Okay. He introduces the shotgun. If he hose things down, then he's trying to, destroy other evidence. So he's on the move up here. Okay. Yeah, if he's a felon, it'd be iffy. That could be problematic. They'll attack his credibility. But the point, and that's why it's important. Go watch my video about where the house is, where Maggie would call her refuge, and then where the shooting took place. And I think everybody is going to scratch their head, not on Maggie's house, but on where the shooting takes place, because you had to know what you were doing out there. And so if this guy's coming up and saying, hey, he had me come out there and shoot him, I think that's going to be a problem for Alec. I think that's why they're trying so hard to keep that evidence out and that testimony out. They didn't even want Maggie's sister bringing it up today. Did you remember that? And did your heart break when she got up there? Holy cow. Cause she's like, I'm the one that encouraged her to go over there. Now that should tell us something, because her sister called her and says, hey, this is going on. Should I go down there? She's asking her sister, should I go down there? That's hesitation. So this lovey-dovey relationship that's being painted here, well, then why is this victim calling her sister to ask whether or not she should go see her husband, who she loves? No, something's wrong here. I think she felt her gut was telling her he's up to something. And it's horrible. This is a great question. What do I feel about Maggie's wedding ring found in her car? Yeah. Did he take it off of her? Did she take it off? Was she leaving it in the cup holder? What's the deal with that? Right? Again, this goes towards, look at Dale Warner up there. Look at Dale Warner up in Michigan. He happened to have her wedding ring in his hand. Unreal. Yeah, this was. I take my shower on my recliner for the night. Wasn't that classic? I love that guy. Absolutely love that guy. And this is why we always talk about in the victimology about the three lives that we live: our public life, our private life, and our secret life. Mr. AM had a lot of secret life. All right, everybody. We certainly love you guys. We thank you so much for being here with us tonight. I've kept you here again another 2 hours, but I've got more coming. So put your seatbelt on. I can't wait for tomorrow to see how this is all going to unfold and see where it's going to go. So please subscribe if you haven't. Hit that thumbs up button. It really helps out all of us here on the TIR team. Thank you, mods. And let's always remember, let's continue to be good to one another. Happy Valentine's Day. Tell those that you love the most that you love them even more today. like I love my sweetheart. She's the greatest thing in my life. She really is. And I love her beyond anything. So have a good night, folks. Let's go to Hawaii.
Hard working every day, I'm stressed out 24/7, babe. No timeouts, wish we could fly away. You and I go to our favorite place. Oh yeah, yeah. Make special memories together. I'll be your company now and forever. I say we fly away, you and me, go to our favorite place. Feeling the sun on my face in Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. With you, Hawaii. I need a summer breeze, some fresh air to put my mind at ease. No cares. You wanna come with me? Me and you go to our favorite tree. Are you ready now? We jump on a plane now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. Don't hesitate now. We're taking away. Yeah, we're taking away. We'll never come down. We're going away. Yeah, we're going away. You and me. Feeling the sun on my face in a while.